In this video, I wanted to share my personal story of becoming a freelance writer and share some tips and advice if you're looking to do the same. So let's get into it. If we haven't met yet, my name is Rachel. I'm a freelance copywriter and editor, and on this channel I talk about writing, making money online, and creativity. So if any of those topics are of interest to you, please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, so I want to start by sharing a little bit about my work background and what led me to get into freelance writing. So basically, I've always sort of worked in hospitality roles, so bartending, waitressing, that sort of thing. And I knew that it wasn't a field that I wanted to stay in, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do instead. I knew I wanted to do some sort of creative role, but the idea of working in an office 9 to 5 type job was not something that I wanted to do. So I spent a good few years just sort of wandering around, a bit lost and unsure of what sort of direction I was going to go in. I've read a lot of business books in the past, and I've tried a lot of side hustles that sort of didn't quite pan out. And not because I totally failed. It was more often I would just sort of get bored and start something new. So I've tried lots of different things in the past, but writing is the one thing that sort of stuck for me. So in March 2020 that's the time when I started to really take my writing seriously. But prior to that, I got a degree in film and television, and I found that script writing was by far my best sort of subject. So I was sort of the go-to writer, I guess, in my class. And writing is something that has sort of always come naturally to me. So, English was always my best subject. And I find it quite easy to sort of pick up the rules of essay writing and structure for scripts and that sort of thing. So, I've always been a bit of a writer, but I guess, I never knew what a copywriter was until literally a couple of years ago. And writing wasn't something that I ever seriously pursued, but it's always been an interest of mine. I always like reading, so it was a natural fit. So before I started getting writing clients, what I did was I did a couple of online courses, just self-paced courses, and I also read a few books. And from there, I basically just started pitching clients. So I created some samples, like a little portfolio sort of thing, and that was it. I didn't have any formal qualifications. I didn't really have a network of people to start with. I was starting from zero. So when I first started pitching clients, it took me about 2 weeks to get my first client. And I started out by cold emailing businesses. And to find people to pitch, what I did was I looked at people in industries that I wanted to write in. So when I started out writing for a lot of life coaches, a lot of people in personal development, self-growth, because that's something I was interested in. So I thought I would like to write about that. And so what I did was I found, big names in that sort of business and personal development space. And then what I did was I went on their websites and I looked at their testimonials. Because for instance, I think one of them that I started with was Marie Forleo. And, I knew that there's no way Marie Forleo is going to pay me to write for her when I have no experience, but maybe some of the people that follow her will let me write for them. So I looked on her testimonials on her website, and I started contacting those people. And I got a couple of clients that way, actually. It took me about 2 weeks to get my first client. So another thing I did was I set up a profile on Upwork and started pitching clients there as well, because those are people that are actively looking for writers. So it made sense to just start there as well. I know Upwork gets a bit of a bad rap, but I actually think you can find a lot of decent clients there, and I've had a lot of success on Upwork. So yeah, that's how I got started. 2 weeks of pitching businesses that I found by looking at the testimonial pages of people I follow, and then pitching clients on Upwork as well. So it didn't take too long to start getting my first paid gigs. Now, in terms of how much I was charging when I first started out, I basically just charged the same amount as what I was making in my hospitality role. So it's about $25 US an hour, but I was actually looking for jobs where I could charge at a fixed rate. So then, it didn't matter if it took me half an hour or 3 hours to complete, I was still getting the same amount of money. So I definitely recommend looking for fixed price jobs to begin with and charging fixed prices. Now, let's talk about the challenges. So obviously, when you're starting in anything and you're new to it, you're not really sure how long it's going to take to complete a writing job. So in some instances, I found that I was getting paid extremely well for not a lot of effort and work. And then there were other times where I was like, oh my God, I wish I hadn't taken on this job because it's just not worth the amount that I'm getting paid to do it. So it can take a few months, 3 to 6 months, to sort of gauge how long it actually takes you to complete a job. Now, let's talk about clients. So as I said a bit earlier, when I started, I was looking to work with, people in personal development and business coaching and that sort of thing, because that's what I was interested in. But what I found was most of my clients are lovely. But in this particular space, in my experience, there were quite a few people that I worked with that I just didn't gel with. I didn't click with them. Maybe I just wasn't on the same wavelength. I don't know, but something wasn't clicking. For the most part, my clients were pretty good. Like, I've been relatively lucky, but there were a few times where I was sort of tearing my hair out, like, why did I say yes to this person? Like, they're a nightmare. So I had to, sort of cut the cord as quickly as I could. Other times I procrastinated on that and stayed a lot longer with a client than I should have. But these are all things that you sort of learn as you go. In terms of how long it took me to segue from working full-time in hospitality to becoming a full-time freelance writer, it took me about a year, and that's not because I wasn't getting enough freelancing work. It was actually because my husband and I wanted to build a house and get a home loan. And so because my writing business was so new, that income didn't count towards anything in terms of getting a home loan. So I needed to keep a full-time job in order to tick the boxes for the bank. So I stuck around a lot longer than I, wanted to, but that was purely to get that home loan sorted. So I think it was about 6 months that I was working full-time and doing my writing side hustle. And to be honest, it was not easy. Like, a lot of tears, like a lot of burnout, and it was not the funnest time. So as soon as our home loan got approved, please do not take this is not good financial advice whatsoever. But as soon as our home loan went through, I essentially quit my job and found a part-time role. So I more than halved my hours working in hospitality. So I had a lot more time to focus on growing my business. And as soon as I created that space in my schedule, I found that it was filled with more writing clients. So I did not, have too much of a dip there. There were a couple of dud months in the beginning, but nothing too crazy. And then I think 3 or 4 months after I had that part-time role, I was ready to just cut the cord completely and go full-time in my business. So if you're interested in becoming a freelance writer, I do have a couple of videos on this, how to get your first writing client and how to become a freelance writer in 2023. So I will pop links to those in the description of this video if you want to check those out next. If you have any questions about freelance writing, I would love to hear from you. So just drop a comment and I will definitely get back to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.